It was last night. I want to say from Lance Pugmire, and I'll show you the article right now. If you watch on YouTube, saying Nate Diaz returns to the UFC octagon after more than 2-year absence. So obviously that is amazing. I shouldn't get ahead of myself. We have that announcement. We have the announcement that Nate Diaz is coming back. He's fighting Dustin Poirier at UFC 230. They're going to be at the press conference today. They show up to the press conference. Nate Diaz is late due to some reasons which we're going to get into. And then all of a sudden, which we're going to get into a separate topic and try to separate them, the Conor and Khabib promo shows up. And that fight is announced. And we're going to discuss that separately. It was not shown, obviously, because we were just watching the promo. But Nate Diaz got up and left in the middle of that promo for Conor and Khabib. Not known why. And then he sends out this tweet.
I want smoke.
I'm not fighting on that show. Fuck the UFC. Whoa, okay. And then it escalates from there. And let me play this clip for you from Danny Austin on Twitter. I forget what outlet he's for. But, whew.
I don't know, man. We're going to have to see. Let me see if I'm making fun. What do you mean? They better start acting and start sorry. What happened? Promoting you want to promote more. They brought me to this press conference late. Oh, they brought you late. Fans want to see the film of you and
So, I mean, if you can't hear it on podcast completely, he said they need to start fucking promoting. They are the ones that brought me to the press conference late. And then I mean, right after this video was dropped, Dustin Poirier, his opponent, echoes his sentiment, says, I ain't fighting on that show either. F the UFC. Which I gotta say, Dustin, come on. Use the full F word. It's possible. It's okay. So, I mean, at this point, nothing else has really been shown or seen. I'm as we speak, as I'm doing this show, I'm trying to find out more information about it, to be quite honest. Here's from Brett Okamoto, literally being next to Dustin Poirier as he writes the tweets. And here's Dustin Poirier composing his last tweet, cracking himself up. It had me laughing. I don't know what to make of this entire situation. And to the boxing idiot saying, did he light a joint? No, but I will say he definitely smoked a ton of weed before because his throat was all fucked up during the press conference. He could barely speak. But digressing. Oh, gosh. I'm just looking through Twitter, and everyone's now, like, all the UFC fighters are now saying that, like, I'm not fighting in this card now. F the UFC. Oh, my God. It's like a fucking Spartacus moment. Well, I'll put it this way. Just to break down the fight a little bit, whether it's on the card, let's go with the idea that this fight is happening on UFC 230. I mentioned this to Anthony Walker last night, obviously off air and on the show, but I was like, why not run with the idea of putting them as the main event? A non-title pay-per-view. And I know that might be crazy for the UFC that definitely has not wanted to do that, but now is your time to really show or see how much value that Nate Diaz's name is, especially as an A-side, headlining a pay-per-view, and an MSG where he has to do all the media circuit. It would be interesting to see. But I will say that, I mean, gosh, this is another Nate Diaz moment. The Diaz brothers will always be Diaz brothers to their heart. I think this fight's a fantastic fight. I think if you're going to match up Nate Diaz not named Tony Ferguson or Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier is the next best guy and probably the best guy if you really think about it in terms of the violence it could really bring. I got legit goosebumps when they faced off. Not because it was an intense face-off or anything, but I knew that this fight is going to, like Dustin says, this is going to be a fight we've never seen before, potentially. This is going to be one of those fights we talk about.